Scumbling is such a fun way to paint in acrylics. It's super easy, and I think it's a skill that every acrylic painter should have. I use it when I'm blending acrylic paint, and I also use it when I'm creating different layers of acrylic paint. As you can see here, I already have some layers of paint and some paint set out from a previous video. A cadmium orange from Dick Blick and a Liquitex Basics, a brilliant blue. You can scumble with any colors and any type of acrylic paint, but what I wanted to show you is how to do it when you already have some paint down on the canvas. Most of these layers are dry. These were really light washes, so they dry quickly. We're going to scumble with soft body acrylics. I think this is the easiest way to get a really good result, especially if you're a beginner. But if you want to use a form of Liquitex Basics, that's good as well. Sometimes the heavy body acrylics are a little stiff, so it might be a little bit more difficult to get results that you would like with scumbling, but I scumble with all different types, so any of these will work. And this color here, parchment, is kind of an off-white color. I thought it might look good when mixed with these. Oh gosh, this has been well used. There is a lot on the top here. Let me clean this off. You never know what you're going to get when you go through some of my old paint supplies. I've had stuff that's been around for years. This looks like I've used it a lot. And this is Naples yellow. I love Naples yellow. When it comes to brushes, I like to use a brush that is kind of frayed out already rather than a brand new one. These are both 1/2-inch flats. You can use any type of brush to scumble, but I think a flat brush works really well. The main thing is to have a large area to blend with because scumbling uses the flat side of the brush. Now, if you use a new brush, it's going to end up looking like this eventually. So just to keep that in mind. So that's why I kind of have a set of brushes that are already frayed out, set aside for scumbling, so that way I don't ruin my good new brushes. And so what I like to do is get the brush a little bit damp and then dry it off on a paper towel. This is a shop towel, that's why it is blue. You can use any type of paper towels. We are going to use some of the Naples yellow. So what you do is you apply it to one side of the brush. You don't need to have it on the other, but you want to get it on the side. You can have a little bit on the tip of the brush if you want, but mainly you want it really good on the side. And then you are laying the brush on its side and just rubbing it around. And you can see some of this paint up here, the thicker areas are a little bit damp. And so it's cool because you can create really nice blends doing this. Now what I like to do is clean my brush off and then create some washes while I'm scumbling. So I have a little bit on the brush still, but it's mostly just damp. And if you go at the edges here, you can create really nice textures. And if you don't want quite as much textures, if you're just lightly making washes, you can use your less frayed out brush for some of the washes. But I think the combination of scumbling and washes is super fun. So now we're going to get some of this parchment and we're going to mix it over here. See, if you just scumble on like a blank canvas, it's a great way to lay out color. But if you are taking a light layer like this on top of something darker, it really looks nice. See, this area of the blue paint was already dry. And it's so fun to create these really light, kind of fluffy cloud-like layers on top of it. But you can also blend it with something that's already wet to create blended layers. You can see how this area of my painting is just looking so nice and airy. Now, so there's some of this blue that was still wet. And so, let's see, we're blending it all together. If you were making an abstract painting, this process is kind of what they use when they do what's called a lyrical abstract. But really fun to make different textures. Let's take some of this orange and see about scumbling with it. And add some more texture over here. I just have so much fun making different textures and colors. You can have hard edges or you can have it all blended out. I'm running out of my paint over here, but I wanted to add a little bit more of this color. My brush is kind of wet, so it's starting to look more like a wash than scumbling. But that's okay. There are no rules with acrylic painting. It's just supposed to be enjoyable, and once you learn all of the ways to communicate, because that's what the different ways to apply the paint is. They're like your language in acrylic painting. So once you can communicate, you can create anything that you want. Next, you might need to know how to save your paint so that way you can reuse it time and time again in your paintings. I've made an entire video, watch it here, on how to reuse your painting palette. It's very simple, and you're going to save so much money on paint because you won't be throwing it away every time after you paint. You can paint with it for days and days. At least that's what I do. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.